On December 12, 2003, detectives entered a restaurant in Somerville, New Jersey. They were there to arrest a nurse named Charles Cullen. The charge was murder. But the detectives had no idea what they had just uncovered. They thought they were investigating one or two suspicious patient deaths. What they found was a 16-year killing spree. It spanned 9 different hospitals and nursing homes across 2 states. Cullen would later confess to 40 murders, but investigators believe the true number is closer to 400. This would make him the most prolific serial killer in American history. He wasn't a monster who stalked the shadows. He was a trusted caregiver, a colleague, and a friend. He was able to kill and kill again for one simple reason. The very system designed to protect patients instead protected him. This is the unbelievable true story of Charles Cullen and the systemic failure that allowed him to get away with murder for decades. Charles Cullen's life began with trauma. Born in 1960 in West Orange, New Jersey, he was the youngest of 8 children in a devout Catholic family. His father, a bus driver, died before Charles was 6 months old. His childhood was marked by misery. He described being relentlessly bullied at school. At just 9 years old, he made his first attempt to end his own life by drinking chemicals. This act set a dark pattern of depression and mental instability that would follow him forever. In 1977, his mother died in a car accident. Cullen, devastated, dropped out of high school and enlisted in the U.S. Navy. He served on a ballistic missile submarine, but his instability continued. He was hazed, bullied, and eventually transferred to a supply ship. After multiple psychiatric evaluations, he was medically discharged in 1984. Searching for a new path, he enrolled in nursing school. It seemed like a fresh start. He graduated, got married, and in 1987, he landed his first nursing job. He started at the burn unit of St. Barnabas Medical Center in New Jersey. He was finally in a position of trust. And it was here, surrounded by the vulnerable, that his true darkness emerged. On June 11, 1988, Cullen administered a lethal overdose of a drug to a patient. It was his first murder. As he would later claim, he believed he was ending the patient's suffering. But this was not a mercy killing. It was the start of a compulsion. Cullen discovered 2 drugs that would become his signature: Digoxin and Insulin. Both are essential in a hospital. Both are untraceable in a standard autopsy. And in high doses, both are lethal. He developed a system. He would access the hospital's automated drug dispensing cabinets. He would request drugs for his patients, but also withdraw doses of digoxin and insulin. Then he would wait. He would walk into the rooms of patients who were not his. He would inject the lethal dose into their IV bags and quietly walk away. Soon, patients at St. Barnabas began dying at an alarming rate. The hospital eventually investigated the contaminated IV bags. Cullen was a suspect. They knew he was accessing the drugs, but they couldn't prove it. Instead of calling the police, the hospital did what would become the blueprint for the next 16 years. They quietly fired him. No report was filed, no warning was sent to the state nursing board. Charles Cullen was free to find a new job. In 1992, Cullen moved to Warren Hospital in New Jersey. The pattern repeated. He killed 3 elderly women with overdoses of digoxin. One victim, who survived the initial injection, told another nurse that a sneaky male nurse had given her a shot while she slept. She died the next day. Still, no one connected it to Cullen. He left Warren and, in 1994, started at Hunter Don Medical Center. For 2 years, he claims he didn't kill, but in 1996, he murdered 5 more patients in just 9 months. Again, the hospital grew suspicious. They tested his blood. They gave him a polygraph. He passed. Faced with a potential scandal, Hunterdon, like the hospitals before it, let him go without a full investigation. This was the system. Hospital administrators, fearing lawsuits and bad press, chose to pass the trash. They would fire a problem nurse for a minor infraction, give a neutral reference, and push them on to the next facility. It protected the hospital's reputation, but it left a trail of bodies. Over the next 5 years, Cullen moved through 6 different facilities. He was fired for poor performance. He was fired for being suspected of stealing drugs. He was reported for erratic behavior. He was in and out of psychiatric facilities. And at nearly every stop, patients died under mysterious circumstances. His name was never flagged. With a severe nursing shortage, hospitals were desperate. In 2002, Charles Cullen, a man with a 15-year history of red flags, was hired by Somerset Medical Center. At Somerset, Cullen met a nurse named Amy Loughran. She was a single mother, struggling with a serious heart condition. Cullen became her closest friend. He helped her with her shifts. He helped her hide her illness. He helped her care for her young daughters. Amy trusted him completely. Meanwhile, the hospital's data began to show a terrifying trend. A hospital risk manager noticed that in the 9 months since Cullen was hired, there was a massive spike in suspicious patient deaths. The automated drug cabinets also showed a pattern. Cullen was accessing drugs, particularly digoxin, for patients who hadn't been prescribed them, and those patients were dying. The hospital's leadership was warned, but for 3 months, they did nothing. They didn't call the police. They didn't fire Charles Cullen. They just watched. It was only after more patients died that they finally, reluctantly, contacted the New Jersey State Police. Detectives Tim Braun and Danny Baldwin were assigned the case. They were homicide cops, and this was not a normal homicide case. They were dealing with a medical system that was actively working against them. When they asked the hospital for Cullen's drug access records, the hospital stalled. They claimed the records were lost. They claimed they only kept them for 30 days. The detectives knew this was a lie. The hospital, it seemed, was more afraid of a lawsuit than a serial killer. Frustrated, the detectives turned to Dr. Stephen Marcus at the New Jersey Poison Control Center. They showed him the patient charts. Marcus saw the pattern immediately. The patients weren't just dying. They were being systematically poisoned with overdoses. He told the hospital they had a killer on their staff. He urged them to act. But the hospital leadership was still debating whether to throw the whole institution into chaos. During those months of delay, Charles Cullen killed 5 more people. The detectives knew they were in a race against time. They had their suspect, but the hospital had blocked their access to evidence. They needed someone on the inside. The detectives found Amy Loughran's name on a staff list. They brought her in for an interview and laid out their case. They showed her the drug withdrawal records. They showed her Charles Cullen's signature again and again, next to lethal doses for patients who died. Amy's world shattered. The man who had been her rock, her confidant, was a monster. She was terrified, but she was also a nurse. She knew she had to stop him. Amy agreed to become a confidential informant. She went back to the hospital, secretly gathering the evidence the detectives needed. The final step was the most dangerous. The detectives needed a confession. They asked Amy to wear a wire and meet Cullen at a restaurant. It was an immense risk. Amy's heart condition meant the wire could be dangerous, but she did it. For hours, she sat across from her friend, guiding the conversation, trying to get him to admit what he'd done. Finally, he began to talk. It wasn't a full confession, but it was enough. When they left the restaurant, Braun and Baldwin were waiting. Charles Cullen's 16-year reign of terror was over. In custody, Charles Cullen finally confessed. He told the detectives he had killed between 30 and 40 people. He claimed he was an angel of death, ending patients' suffering. But his victims told a different story. Many were not terminally ill. Some, like 21-year-old Michael Strenko, were recovering. Cullen's motive wasn't mercy. It was compulsion. He killed because he needed to. To avoid the death penalty, Cullen agreed to cooperate. He led investigators through his entire 16-year career, hospital by hospital, victim by victim. The final confirmed count was 29 murders. The unconfirmed, but likely total, is estimated to be over 400. In 2006, Charles Cullen was sentenced to 18 consecutive life sentences. He will never be eligible for parole. His case exposed the horrifying secret of the healthcare industry. The angel of death was a monster of the system's own making. The 15-minute story you just watched is only the surface of this case. It shows how he did it, but it barely scratches the surface of the why. The full story, the one that includes exclusive, chilling jailhouse conversations with Cullen himself, the one that details the deep, complex friendship between him and Amy Lochran, and the one that fully exposes the corporate greed that protected him. That longer version of the story is told in the definitive 11-hour audiobook, The Good Nurse. If you're interested in that full, in-depth account, you can find it on Audible. Audible is a great source for audiobooks on this case and thousands of others. If you'd like to get started, you can click on the link in the description to get your membership. It's the only way to truly understand the mind of the killer and the incredible courage of the nurse who stopped him. Thank you for watching Sloppy Medicine. Stay safe, stay informed.